be able to go back to the continent and be treated like a human.
And everything that they learned and were taught about Africa were lies.
For most of their lives, millions of people were quietly lied to, and they never even knew it. They were taught that Africa was a single poor country, frozen in time, full of suffering, danger, and desperation. They were shown the same images again and again: dusty villages, starving children, broken buildings, and hopeless faces. Over time, those images became truth. Nobody questioned them, nobody challenged them. And then, unexpectedly, a loud, chaotic, unfiltered American streamer named IshowSpeed turned on his camera and walked through Africa. What followed shocked people to their core. As Speed laughed with locals, danced in the streets, rode through modern cities, and felt genuine love from people who had never met him before, the internet froze. Americans watching his live streams couldn't believe what they were seeing. Clean roads, skyscrapers, technology, music everywhere, energy everywhere, joy everywhere.
How beautiful the continent is. We know it's vast with 50+ countries where you have beautiful people, beautiful culture that is very welcoming and inviting towards us.
The Africa they were seeing did not match the Africa they were taught, and that realization hit hard. Some laughed in disbelief, some apologized publicly, some cried.
Such a poor country, bro. Such a place you wouldn't want to be at, bro. And Speed is single-handedly changing my perspective on.
Others began questioning everything they thought they knew about the world, about America, and about freedom itself. This was not just a travel stream, it was a cultural earthquake. IshowSpeed's Africa tour became a mirror, reflecting how deep propaganda had shaped global thinking for decades. It exposed how a continent of over 1 billion people had been reduced to a single false story. And most importantly, it reminded the world that Africa never needed saving, it needed to be seen. What unfolded during this tour wasn't just entertainment, it was a moment of awakening that is still rippling across generations.
What Speed is doing, he's showing you all the cities and all this shit, and it's more than that.
For decades, the image of Africa presented to the world was carefully edited and incomplete. It wasn't an accident, and it wasn't harmless. Colonial history, global media, and political interests worked together to paint Africa as poor, broken, and dependent. News coverage focused almost entirely on war, famine, disease, and corruption, while progress, innovation, and normal everyday life were ignored. Over time, this selective storytelling created a powerful illusion. To many Americans, Africa became a place you escape from, not a place you visit. This lie was repeated so often that it became comfortable. School textbooks barely mentioned Africa outside of slavery or poverty. Movies portrayed it as wild and uncivilized. Charity ads reduced an entire continent to begging hands and sad music. Slowly, people stopped seeing Africans as modern humans living real lives. They saw a stereotype instead. That is why so many viewers were genuinely shocked when Speed walked through cities like Johannesburg or Lagos and showed highways, malls, nightlife, and young people living lives similar to theirs.
I had such a good time out there. The music, the culture, the food, the dance, they're so welcoming. South Africa, Johannesburg, but don't take my word for it. Look at how they welcome Speed.
The most disturbing part wasn't the ignorance itself, but the confidence behind it. Many truly believed that Africa had no technology, no cities, and no structure. Some didn't even know Africa was a continent. That level of misunderstanding doesn't come from personal failure alone. It comes from years of unchallenged narratives. When you are never shown a different image, you stop imagining one exists. IshowSpeed didn't argue with anyone. He didn't lecture. He simply showed reality. And reality was louder than decades of lies. As viewers watched, the propaganda cracked. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Why were we never shown this? Who benefited from us believing Africa was nothing? And what else have we been wrong about? That moment marked the beginning of a mental shift that could no longer be undone.
I
didn't know Africa was such a beautiful country. They got cars, they got water, they got Wi-Fi. Like we was lied to. We was really lied to.
What made IshowSpeed's Africa tour so powerful was its raw honesty. There were no filters, no scripts, no polished tourism ads. It was real life, unfolding live in front of millions. Speed didn't just visit places, he connected with people. He laughed with kids, danced with crowds, tried local food, and felt genuine affection everywhere he went. That love wasn't forced, it wasn't staged. It was natural, and viewers felt it through the screen. Many African Americans watching had emotional reactions. For some, it was the first time they saw a Black American walk freely through African cities without fear, without being judged, and without carrying the heavy burden of race.
IshowSpeed is getting nothing but love. Nobody's calling him any name. Nobody's saying anything about him. He's just having a good time. He's enjoying himself because he's home.
They saw Speed being treated as human first, not as a threat. That alone challenged deep emotional scars passed down through generations, shaped by racism and exclusion in America. Viewers noticed something else too. Speed looked happy in a different way. Relaxed, free, safe. That led many to reflect on their own lives. Some openly admitted that America began to feel like a trap, while Africa felt like freedom. That idea alone terrified and inspired people at the same time. It forced them to question whether the American dream was really the only dream worth chasing. The beauty Speed showed wasn't just buildings or landscapes, it was the spirit of the people, the energy, the pride, the confidence of African youth who were stylish, tech-savvy, creative, and globally aware. These weren't people waiting to be rescued. These were people living, building, and dreaming. And once viewers saw that, the old image of Africa could never fully return. Africa's beauty runs far deeper than what any live stream can capture. It exists in the way people welcome strangers, in how communities care for one another, and in the cultural pride that flows through music, food, language, and tradition. Hospitality in Africa isn't a performance, it's a value. Visitors often leave shocked by how warmly they are treated by people who have nothing to gain from them. Africa is also one of the richest continents on Earth, not just in natural resources like gold, oil, diamonds, and fertile land, but in creativity and resilience. African cities are among the fastest growing in the world. Tech startups, fashion brands, music movements, and film industries are rising at incredible speed. African culture influences global trends daily, even when the world fails to give credit. Historically, Africa was never backward. Long before modern Europe, African civilizations had advanced systems of governance, trade, and education. Cities like Timbuktu were global centers of knowledge. What interrupted Africa wasn't lack of intelligence or capability, but exploitation, slavery, and colonial disruption. Despite that, Africa continues to rise, rebuild, and redefine itself on its own terms. Yet stereotypes persist, especially among those who have never been. That ignorance isn't always hatred. Often it's absence of exposure. This is why visibility matters. When people see Africa through real experiences, not pity-based narratives, respect naturally follows.
IshowSpeed's Africa streams are doing multiple generational undamaging to your brain. Because y'all really thought that Africa was a bunch of twigs and huts.
Africa does not need validation, but it deserves honesty. The continent is complex, modern, ancient, chaotic, organized, spiritual, innovative, and deeply human all at once. Any story that shows only one side is incomplete. What IshowSpeed unintentionally sparked is bigger than a viral moment. He helped trigger a cultural awakening. Millions of young people are now more curious, more aware, and more willing to question what they were taught. This matters because perception shapes policy, relationships, and respect. When Africa is seen clearly, it is treated differently. For Africans watching, these moments ignite pride. Pride in culture, pride in identity, pride in home.
They don't want them to see that Africa actually has humans, right? With cultures, and these people have homes, cars, Wi-Fi, water, same things we have, right?
It reminds them that their worth is not defined by foreign opinions. For people in the diaspora, it opens a door back to roots that were intentionally disconnected. It creates a sense of belonging that many never knew they were missing. The narrative is changing, slowly but surely. More creators are visiting Africa. More stories are being told from inside the continent, not about it. And once people see the truth, it becomes impossible to unsee it. The damage done by decades of propaganda won't disappear overnight, but the healing has begun. Africa's story is still being written, and this time, the world is finally listening. Not because Africa changed, but because the lens did. And as more people look closer, one truth becomes clear. Africa was never what they told us it was. It has always been alive, powerful, and full of love.